Hey Mets fans, welcome back to the channel. I hope you all had a great weekend and get ready because we are in for an action-packed week more than likely. There's a lot of speculation that a lot of the bigger names in free agency for the MLB are going to start signing hopefully this week. Again, only time will tell, but I'm really excited knowing that further reports are coming out that we may find decisions soon on the bigger names out there that we have talked about here on the channel endlessly already. But getting right into today's video, we're going to be taking a look at two players in particular for the New York Mets that may very well find themselves on different rosters before the 2021 MLB season starts for various reasons, in part because of the salary implications and also too because how they currently fit with the roster. So that as well, I'll be breaking down today's video, basically taking a look at both these players, the pros and cons to them, why I very well could see them dealt this offseason for numerous reasons outside of certain reports to these players the past couple months and everything in between. And as always guys, make sure you stay all the way until the end of the video for all the deets and all my thoughts on these players and then possibly landing with another club to start off the 2021 season. If you guys end up enjoying this kind of Mets content and want to see more great Mets content like this, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, share this video with your friends, put on the notification bell and all those great things. Stay tuned guys, I will be live streaming later tonight as well, so I'll talk about that further in the video. But without further ado, let's get right into this vid. So as we know, the Mets made that blockbuster deal that I still can't get over. Yes, and Francisco Lindor and Carlos Carrasco from the Cleveland Indians, or just Cleveland now, right? But since then, there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of ideas as to, okay, what is the next move for the New York Mets? And could we see other players from the Mets current roster trade this offseason? My first response would be absolutely. I do think the Mets will part ways with some other guys, long-term guys that have been on the roster for a while. And two players that really stand out to me in particular are that and Steven Matz and Jeurys Familia. And I know you guys have been probably speculating as well, how are they going to make the money work when they're trying to possibly go after George Springer still, Brad Hand among some others, maybe some trade options as well, while still only working with just under $30 million before the $210 million luxury tax threshold, where there's a lot of belief and speculation that that threshold is not the stand in the line. Quote here from Jared Porter from 10 days ago saying how the threshold is not an issue for the Mets should they go after that. So if they do go beyond that upwards of $300 million, which I know is hard to fathom, but is a possibility, then when it comes to training these players, it's not so much salary implication as it is their current utilization in the roster as well, but they do go hand in hand with each other. But starting off with a guy here of Steven Matz caliber, let's talk about him for a minute. Matz, as we know, we all have loved him for the most part for a long time, being New Yorker his entire life, growing up on Long Island, going to high school, and then being drafted at 16 years of age, I believe, by the New York Mets as a dire Mets fan. Doesn't get any better than that. It's truly a childhood dream that comes to fruition. But Matz, between his inconsistencies and his injuries, especially early in his career, they have definitely not boded well with his career to date. And now at the age of 29, Matz, who had just a sub 10 ERA in the short 2020 season, who simply could not get out of the first inning, could very well find himself out of Queens sooner rather than later. There's a lot of reasons to speculate that, especially because when you look at the Mets, prior to signing him to his new deal, his one-year deal currently at $5.2 million, the Mets were trying to deal him in talks and negotiations with the Toronto Blue Jays. Now, a trade obviously did not get done. It fell through, and that is why the Mets have kept Matz to this point in time, I would have to imagine. But that is a trade avenue the Mets may very well go down again, especially with the Blue Jays team that is trying to add in their rotation, trying to add overall depth in the roster as they're pushing for playoffs and World Series aspirations in the coming years. They're basically the Mets' biggest competitor in regards to going after guys like George Springer and Trevor Bauer to an extent, among some others. And I know it's an uphill battle with Toronto trying to land players because of all their different issues with going to Canada and everything like that. But still, Matz very well could be serviceable for Toronto should they re-engage in some negotiation process there. So time will tell on that front, but there's a lot of reasons besides his salary that very well could indicate that Steven Matz is out of the lineup for the Mets heading into the 2021 season, as much as James McCann could help him as they have been working with each other in the offseason the past couple years as he's been catching him among some other things. If the Mets are going to add one more arm in this rotation, which I think is a very strong possibility still, they have too many pitchers they're working with. When you look at the roster as it is, you have Jacob deGrom, DeGoat, that's number 1. Then you have Stroman 2. Then you have Cookie Carrasco 3. Then you have David Pearson 4. Then you have Matz 5, okay? But you're forgetting Thor at number 6. Once Thor is back in that rotation, you're automatically going to have to push one of those guys out of there into the bullpen. And when you look at the Mets, if they add one more name, whether it's via free agency or the trade market in this current rotation as either a depth starter, as a fifth starter, or a 2 or 3 starter, for instance, then you're having 7 pitchers you're working with. So once Thor is back, you literally have to push both Peterson and Matz to the bullpen. That simply isn't happening. So when you look at the roster as it is, it really looks like as if Matz is the odd man out, and I don't think the Mets are going to take a big of enough gamble with trying to bank on Matz to be their 5th starter to start the season with all this uncertainty. That's just my personal opinion, but the fact that they have reportedly tried dealing him prior to signing him to his latest deal is an indication that yes, we're fully willing to part ways with Matz should it be at the right price. And I don't really care from my perspective what the price would be. It would just make a lot of sense for the Mets as it is, especially if they added one more big arm in that rotation. There just simply is not room for him, let alone Peterson for that matter. He's another guy who would have to move to the bullpen like he did this past season at times, which I don't think would be a big issue because he's still young, controllable. They can figure him out as being a long-term starter, but it doesn't necessarily need to be immediate. It all depends on his play, even though he did have a strong rookie campaign. Regardless of Matz, however, let's get on to Jeurys Familia, because he's another guy that a lot of Mets fans believe, okay, his contract could be dealt by how. Familia, as we know, at 31 years of age currently, signed a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Mets after being traded away 2 years ago to the Oakland A's mid-season. He did fine with the A's, but he comes back with Brodie Van Wagenen on a $30 million guaranteed deal. So currently for the 2021 season, he will be making with the Mets just around $11,666,000, and I know I don't like saying those numbers together, but that's just how they have it set up. Now if you look at adjusted salary, should there be a trade in place or whatever, you're looking at $16,666,000+. That's a lot of money, and that is not an easy trade to really get together, if you will, to part ways with that kind of contract with a guy Familia who has been pretty inconsistent these past couple years. If you look at his numbers in 2020, he didn't have a bad campaign at all, but still was a 3.71 ERA in the shortened season, and the year prior in the 2019 season had a 5.70 ERA. It was just abysmal. Same thing with Diaz. They did not look great. But on Familia front, especially past his prime now, he's not the 2015 World Series Familia, for instance, or the 2016 run, those types of Familia. Now he is a guy that can very well be susceptible to being dealt. And the Mets are trying to land Brad Hand, which we all know they will, and they very well still may within the coming days, maybe later today, even after recording this. Only time will tell. Then your bullpen is pretty much solidified at that point. You're bringing in your lefty closer, and we all know Familia is not a closer now. He's a setup guy. He's a length guy when it comes to, say, a pitcher not having a great start to the game among others. His utilization is different, but not something that the Mets need to bank on going forward. And while Dylan Betances at $6 million is another guy to consider possibly dealing, I don't think he's going anywhere. I think the Mets are going to just see how he does for the upcoming season and go from there. But Familia, with that kind of contract, I very well could see being dealt, in part because of the salary implication, because again, Familia, even with his numbers, is the 4th highest paid Met on this entire roster when the Mets are 3rd in the MLB in payroll currently. Like, are you kidding me? Should we really be paying Familia that much? I don't think we should, and I don't think that if this was Steve Cohen and Sandy Alderson regime, they would have thrown that deal at him if it wasn't Brodie Van Wagenen in place at that point in time. So if you're asking me, these are 2 guys that really stand out that could be dealt this offseason among some others. I don't think the Cano contract is going anywhere because the Mets can just bury it should they do it, because they're not dealing with that contract as we speak right now. Is gone for the year because of his PEDs among some other things. And then if you look at if it's possibly dealt, I could see it dealt a part of a bigger deal like Nolan Arenado to really try to balance the money a little bit there. But outside of that, I don't see that Cano contract going anywhere. I don't really see many people taking it per se. And I also think that his contract will eventually be bought out by the Mets should it not be dealt in the next year or so. But Steven Matz and Jeurys Familia, 2 guys that very well could be dealt by the Mets this offseason. 1, because of salary implications, and 2, just because of how they are currently utilized with this roster, really looking like odd man's out. And for what they're costing, it just simply isn't worth it at the end of the day, at least if you're asking me. So Mets fans, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about Steven Matz and Jeurys Familia possibly being the next Mets up to find themselves out of Queens with a different team to start the 2021 season? And guys, stay tuned. I'll be live streaming again tonight, as you can see right down here, talking about all the latest with the Mets and their approach to free agency. Once again, there's a lot of things going on with Springer, Hand, among some others, and I want to talk to you guys one-on-one again. So I hope to see you all there. It's going to be a lot of fun. Should be right around 7 p.m. Eastern time. But thank you all so much again, guys. It means the world. Let me know your thoughts down below. Please make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Share this video with your friends. Put on the notification bell if you ended up enjoying this kind of Mets content and want to see more great Mets content like this. And I'll talk to you all again probably in a day or 2.